Thank you guys for joining us at the SEO Juice for the month of September. Thanks for joining us. I know this one was postponed to this week from last week. We all had a decent amount of travel and things going on. We will kick it off with our typical, what do we call it? 3 local SEO truths and a myth. So select the myth. We'll give you all a minute.
Oh man, I can't vote.
Yeah, hosts and panelists can't vote. Also, nobody dropped their football team. Maybe everybody doesn't want to admit.
I guess they're all Steelers fans, is what I'm getting.
You're all Steeler fans? That's amazing.
That's what I see. If no one's dropping him in, that's the only thing I can assume.
No. Oh no.
You know, I still like Packers.
Oh, Ravens?
Oof. Packers are the only ones that can say we, though, right? Because they sort of own their team. So I always give them props for that.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
So,
Bengals, Bills, Seahawks, Seattle.
oh, wow.
We can talk college ball. Oh, Kelly and I are both Penn State fans. Kelly went to Penn State, though, so she's got way more of a claim. All right, Penn State, here we go.
I do Penn State. I like that. I do Penn State as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Yikes. Big yikes. What are you, a Michigan fan? Okay. I'll go through and introduce. Oh, we do see the answers. Okay. Interesting poll results, a little across the board.
Yeah.
So before we give you the answer, I am Casey McBride. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, I'm SOCi's Director of Strategic Consulting. With that, I think I say the same thing every single meeting that I join, but I have the privilege of managing a team of SEO, social media, and data analysts to help our customers solve everyday problems. I have a pretty rich SEO background. I've been working in SEO for about 11 years now at this point, marketing even longer than that. So I'll turn it over to Mike and Kelly to introduce themselves as well.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. So Mike Snow, I'm the local SEO evangelist and enablement manager here at SOCi. I've been doing SEO for about a decade. Initially, though, it was because I put up a site and just wondered why it wasn't appearing and had to learn all these things. And so now I tell everyone else how to do those things. And I'm excited to do that every month with you all. So thanks for joining.
Hey, everyone. My name's Kelly Satino. I was trying to do the math in my head, how many years I've been doing social for. I want to say about 8 maybe 9 between internships and, real life career stuff. So my title is social media enablement manager. So Mike and I are kind of counterparts, and we report up to Casey.
Awesome. Well, oh, and I love that we moved this up to the top. So if this is your first time joining us, or if you just need a reminder on where to find us, there's 2 different locations that you can go to. All of our webinars are in SOCi University, which is the portal that customers can use to get all kinds of awesome content training. They do live trainings. They do all kinds of really cool stuff. So if you have not checked out SOCi, definitely check it out. And you will find us there as well. If you are not a customer of SOCi yet, hi, welcome. You can still access old SEO Juice recordings and make sure that you're registered for upcoming webinars as well using the other QR code.
Yeah. And this is also useful if you have franchisees or other managers or owners where they don't have access to SOCi, but you want them to be able to watch this. That link is also useful for that. So.
And, that's actually a really good point, Mike. I would love, for those of you who are joining us that do have like a franchise network, I've been encouraging a lot of our customers to encourage their franchise managers to join us. There's no, requirement of level that somebody has to be at to benefit from, joining us here at the Juice and getting some insights. So at any level, any store managers, even whatever you guys want to pass this along to, we're happy to have them and have them join us and learn.
All right, so moving along, the answer to the question. It's all true.
We didn't make that an option, and we probably should have.
It was a little tricky. I know there was a trick question. I admit that. But there has been a lot of news lately where well, there's been a lot of stories of people validating that Apple, OpenAI, Perplexity, and others are absolutely taking advantage of Google data. There was a recent article that showed that OpenAI is using a third-party source called SERP that's scraping Google and getting timely data. And it is really around the timely data, right? Like these LLMs don't have the kind of indexing capabilities that Google does, that real-time capability that they have. And so they have to go somewhere to get this data, this real-time, up-to-date data, and that's where they're going. So just a good thing to know as we talk about optimization, and actually at the end, Casey's gonna have a little more to say on some of this, but
I got a bit of a rant.
I will say, though, it validates what we were looking at back in March. We went through tips to beginning your optimization strategy. One of the things we noticed that ChatGPT was absolutely using Google reviews, and now we understand why and where it's getting that data from. It's not that it's indexing Google data, it's getting it from someone. So, and with that,
All right, so we got a jam-packed agenda here for you today. First, we're gonna hit you with some industry news, some updates. We're gonna talk about links in social media. So we'll turn it over to Kelly to talk about where you should place your links, when to include a link, kind of the most optimal way to optimize your social media posts. We're gonna take a deep dive into Google versus Apple Maps, understand some user behaviors that we're seeing on our end across these two platforms and what engagement looks like. We also have a Spark of Genius that was published, and Spark of Genius are essentially our way to share just really cool data insights and things that our team stumbles upon as we're, you know, working through customer insights. And we have a really cool one around hyperlocal content and what it can do for your results. Then we get into some checkbox optimizations, any kind of new categories, attributes, and features. And then I've got a little bit of a rant about things that we are seeing out in the wild. There's a lot of noise out there right now around optimizing for AI, and that's what we're going to close it with. So without further ado, industry news.
well,
So first and foremost, August 2025 spam update is in progress. On August 26th, Google began pushing out its first spam update of 2025. I say this every single time that there's an update. If you are doing correct SEO best practices, if you are not spammy in nature, if you are not well, not even not, if you are setting things up in a way that you are the optimal answer, that you are a clean page, that you know, are optimal for search, you really don't have to worry a lot about these. But it is good to follow and kind of know when these things occur. Spam updates do tend to have a little bit more of an impact, I would say, that we notice. There's a little bit more volatility at times that we observe. One of the big things to take away is make sure your local pages are helpful, that they follow technical SEO best practices, meaning, you know, don't do any black hat SEO tactics. Don't do anything that kind of like floods crawlers. You know, spam updates, again, don't typically affect local visibility, but sometimes, you know, if there are a lot of like external sources and other things that are getting penalized, it can make things a bit shaky.
yeah, we saw a couple last year where pages might have had an intrusive interstitial, which is against Google policy, or didn't have tags that married it to the listing. Like one of the ways Google looks for bad pages is based on how well they're set up, right? So if they're not set up well, it makes sense that those pages could get caught up and be considered spammy.
100%. Yep. Thanks, Mike.
Another one really interesting, and I've come across this myself. Do LLMs have a 404 problem? So Ahrefs just did a study that found that AI assistants, particularly ChatGPT, are significantly more likely than Google search to direct users to non-existent 404 pages. I did that. I had a search for something for my dog a couple months back who was really sick. And was trying to use ChatGPT to find the product because Google wasn't working, and it kept sending me to 404 pages. Why? Well, because it probably was trained on pages that no longer exist. So that's one of the findings here. Like many of these pages are hallucinated, or they're just going back to old training data. And when I mean hallucinated, let's say you're a service area business, and a lot of service area businesses have separate service pages maybe beyond their local page, and Google just decides, well, I'm just going to make that up because most have that. That's what they mean by hallucinating those links. So although, I think from a local point of view, most businesses have a really good structure there, but you want to make sure, while you can't stop LLMs from doing this, make sure you have really good 404 pages that don't just lead users to a dead end. Make sure that there's helpful information to get them back to the places they need to go.
Yeah, I'm really happy you said that, Mike. That's what I was going to chime in with. And when we say like a good 404 page, a lot of times really good 404 pages have almost like an index of options. Like, oh, sorry, this no longer exists. Were you looking for that, like something to link back and get people to still convert after they land, is typically helpful.
All right, next up.
This next one. So a federal judge did rule that Google had to sacrifice its exclusive search deals, which pretty much made it the primary search engine of choice for popular smartphones, browsers, devices. Now, it's a little convoluted though, because they can still be the search engine of choice. They just lose the dictation of like exclusivity. So like competition can kind of jump in and outbid them to be the search engine of choice on some of these devices. So really, it's not that big of a deal losing that. The judge did also stop short at forcing any kind of breakup. So Google gets to keep Chrome, which I think everybody thought Chrome was going to be gone. I think the only thing that really happened that was significant and would impact Google in a major way is sharing its search data with some of its rivals. So essentially some of the methodology behind how Google search works and the search data that it collects, being able to share that out. That is maybe the biggest loss that Google has faced. I know that they are going to go back and appeal that. Now, at first, this ruling, I mean, you can tell my personal opinion, it's light, right? For someone to be ruled a monopoly and then for essentially not a lot to occur is a bit unusual. But the judge did say that they anticipated increased competition thanks to LLMs. So I get that, right? Like Google maybe now has greater competition, maybe is being threatened as monopoly because ChatGPT and sources like this exist. However, a lot of these sources use Google, like we just talked about. And then on top of that, Google has its own LLM in AI mode or Gemini. And so I kind of question that. But yeah, overall, I think general consensus is this ruling was a bit light. And we'll see, how Google reacts and what happens from here.
Cool. Thanks, Casey. Next one, really quick. Some of you may have seen this out in the wild, some maybe not, but at least for me in my area and for others, we're seeing that searches for restaurants specifically, especially, but it can be any kind of experience type businesses, that we're seeing them more visible in AI organized results. So I have a couple searches here. One was restaurants near me, one was massage spas near me. Both of them returned a top rated nearby local pack. So in the past, if you searched for best restaurant, best massage spa, Google would filter by 4.0, but you had to like say that specifically. Now Google is making a bit of an assumption that you're looking for those best things. So it does appear that Google's putting an increasing value on the customer experience and evaluating that business's prominence. So again, it's over everything else. I think we talked a couple, I don't know if it was last month or the month before now, I should have remembered this, about prominence and relevance, right? Prominence, when it comes to Google, reviews just seem to be getting turned up more and more all the time. Search is becoming, it's always been experiential, but it seems to be becoming more experiential, and we might talk about that a little bit more. So just keep an eye on your reviews.
Absolutely. This next one, it's a little confusing to explain, so I'll try my hardest here. You may have all noticed when you look into your Google Search Console accounts that in the past week or so, impressions have sunk. And the primary reason for this is that Google recently dropped its number equals 100 parameter, which essentially allowed crawlers to query 100 results at a time. So think about like rank tracking tools that in one foul swoop want to get an understanding of the top 100 results on Google and understand like ranking and how they're looking. Google removed that parameter capability and no longer supports it. So one thing to keep in mind is a lot of your rank tracking tools are probably temporarily broken. I, in fact, even connected with our own product team to make sure that we are on it. Thankfully, our team is on it. We're working through a remedy to make sure that we are capturing a large number of results, which now need to be done through, I believe, multiple queries, cannot just be obtained using one kind of top 100 type of parameter. But the reason that this impacted Search Console is because Google Search Console is just looking at impressions, whether it's a bot or a human. And so when you have these crawlers, these rank tracking tools, they are technically bots going out and creating an impression for your web page in search results. And so when those bots are no longer crawling, that is going to significantly impact the impressions that you're collecting on your pages themselves. So what you're likely to observe is that your impressions are plummeting, but your clicks should not be, and your like average position and things like that should not be. So just something to keep in mind. It's not necessarily something that's going to steady out immediately. I would imagine that once of these tools start figuring out ways to get past that parameter update, you're going to kind of see your impressions uptick again. But just something to be aware. Data is always a bit more to it than what it seems. So
Cool. Thanks, Casey. And lastly, local pages are your secret weapon in the world of AI search. So I found this really awesome, helpful post by Phil Rosick, who is a great SEO. And it kind of validates a lot of the things that we've been seeing and saying. And so whenever I find these, I like to bring them up just to show that we're not making these recommendations in a vacuum and that they do align with some of the things that we've been talking about. But one of the takeaways from his, or one of the big recommendations from his article was around what he called why choose us pages, or what I talked to a lot of people about, having like FAQs, like really trying to explain, basically train the AIs and create content that is helpful. So this idea that, let's say for farmers insurance, right? You should expect XYZ in an insurance agent. I provide ABC, or XYZ and ABC. Why should you choose that person over someone else? And if you're not doing that, you're not giving LLMs any content to evaluate you, right, over others and against what should be expected from the industry. So again, really, as you look to evolve your pages in a world of AI and LLMs, you really need to focus on your content. It's one of those things we've been saying. I think this is just another validation of that. So I just wanted to, and a really good, helpful post. So when this is posted up on SOCi on our external site, there are links to this article. I definitely recommend checking it out. So moving on to links in social media. Kelly, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's talk about links. So we're going to start with LinkedIn. So a lot of users say that they notice that their posts perform worse when they use a link in the caption on LinkedIn. So for this reason, many LinkedIn users will actually put the link in their comment section of the post. But LinkedIn has finally weighed in on this theory. So their director of product recently posted a video that explains using a link does not hurt the reach of the post as long as the post leads with value and the link is there to supplement the post. Meaning, if the sole purpose of the post is to drive traffic to that link, then the reach will suffer. So this comes down to social networks wanting to keep users in their property for as long as possible. So kind of vague as far as what they're saying, but keeping what they said in mind, we would recommend the following. So definitely make sure your LinkedIn caption is written in a way that makes the link supplemental to the message. So remember what he said about the link not being the sole purpose of the post. And if you still notice your reach is down when you're using a link, we'd also recommend that you even test this out by posting the link in the comments to see if that helps performance at all. And in some cases, you might just even want to bypass the link completely if it's not totally needed.
And one thing to just highlight when we say like supplemental to the message, so oftentimes I'll see posts on LinkedIn. In fact, SOCi does a lot of posts themselves where we will still highlight, you know, key takeaways, right? Or things in an article or in a blog post and essentially say like, okay, we saw a 25% lift here, or this is what the customer observed, really like giving a good amount of detail in the post. And then the link is there as supplemental, is essentially to say like, if you want more detail, like this is where you go, not necessarily making the link like the target of the post, but rather the link is supplemental to the topic of the post.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, that's something that people have been talking about for a long time. So it's good to get them to weigh in on it. Kind of like it's still a little bit vague, and I still think it's worth testing a little bit, but I think it is good to at least keep in mind, is the link going to just help what you're saying, or are you just trying to get people to go there and leave LinkedIn? Because that's pretty much what they're looking at. All right. So Facebook, this has been talked about a lot recently, but it really is super important to talk about even further. Facebook users have long suspected that using links in their caption hurts their performance. And Facebook has actually recently confirmed this is the case. So they are actually, in some cases, even warning users that a link in the post caption is a main factor in impacting their distribution or the reach. So you can see on the screen that little warning sign of optimizing your content's reach. It says that a link is in your post caption, which is a factor in hurting the distribution. And the reason being is that the external links will drive users away from Facebook, which they don't want. No social network wants you to leave their own, property. Their algorithm favors other types of content over outbound links. And while Facebook does admit to lowering the reach of linked posts, or posts with links in them, studies also do show that your audience members actually don't really care for it either. So not only are those posts perceived as promotional or less engaging, but users also may hesitate to click on those links due to potential disruptions or security concerns. And just to be super clear, we're talking organic social here, not. So if you still need a link to be posted on Facebook, that's totally understood, super fair. The workaround here would be to post the link in the comments. And SOCi actually just released an enhancement last month that allows you to schedule a Facebook post and a first comment to go out at the same time. So that way you can make sure the first comment on the post is the link you wanted to originally be in the caption, and Facebook is not penalizing you for having the link in the comments. Okay, and then just want to talk a little bit more about the first comment enhancement. And we just got a comment from someone saying how much they love it. So glad to hear that people are using that already. So the first comment enhancement that I just mentioned is actually applicable on Instagram too. So as a reminder, link clicks in the caption or in the comments on Instagram are not clickable. So nothing's stopping you from putting a link in the caption or in the comments on Instagram, but we would recommend you don't do that because you can't click on it, so it creates a bad experience. However, you can still utilize the first comment in other creative ways. So on the screen here, I have a few examples of how you can still use that first comment, strategy on Facebook or Instagram when you might be directing users to a link or not a link. So here we have things like, want to learn more, drop by the comments for more details. So that's a way that on Instagram you can direct people to the comments. It just kind of gets more engagement and it helps people stay on your post for a little bit longer. So a bunch of ideas here. We'll make sure you have this whenever we send it out to everybody. But like I mentioned again, URL should not be used in Instagram's first comment since it's not clickable.
Oh, I get to say it. Mike,
I
you're
am
on.
muted. Thank you, Kelly. That was super interesting. I know there's been a lot of back and forth on trying to figure out what the actual policy should be on LinkedIn. So it's good to know what that is as well and how best to take care of that. So before we get into the next section, we're going to do a quick poll. And that AI strategy is wrong. What is your go-to when searching for a local business on the go? So you're out and about, you're looking for a place to eat, you're looking for a car wash, you're looking for gas or convenience store, whatever that is. Where is your go-to? Are you going to Google search or maps, or are you going to Apple Maps? We'll make this a quick one. There's only 2 answers. It should be easy. Apple Maps. All right, we can probably, I don't know that we need to take a lot of time on this one, but let's see what. Do we want to close the polling? There we go. Oh, interesting. 82 to 18%. Very interesting. So let's go into this. We actually looked at this. Where do customers engage the most on Google or Apple Maps? So we just delegated listings. I'm going to start there. So if you we've talked a bit about for the last year since we started about delegated listings. It's something that Apple offers. About 2 years ago, if you were trying to update Apple, we did it through spreadsheets. Apple was way behind on technology, but since they've caught up, they've actually, I think, been doing a lot of really great stuff. Apple delegation being one of those things. And one of the benefits of being delegated is Google will provide a lot more insights about your listing. And so one of the questions I've gotten for a really long time from customers are, where are their local customers searching most? It's been questions we've been getting for years. And because Apple doesn't publish that data in the same way Google does, there really hasn't been a good way to look at this. Now with this Apple Insights data, I've been able to do this, which is really fascinating. We just actually released the ability to look at this in platform. I'll show that in a minute. But what's been great is now these customers, like a car wash or a QSR, a quick serve restaurant, when people are searching on the go, how much traffic actually comes from Google versus Apple Maps, and where are people engaging the most? And so we're able to tell that now. So one of the things, just a quick look at the data before we get into what I found. For those who haven't been delegated yet or haven't looked at their insights within SOCi yet, I think it's really valuable data. At a high level, it gives you your searches. So basically your impressions, the same way Google would call those impressions. And your actions are the same as Google Actions. But in the middle, you get views. Now, this is something Google doesn't provide, but it is very interesting, which is essentially how many people within those search results have actually viewed a listing. So someone has actually clicked on a knowledge panel in Google. That's not reported out right now, but that is reported in Apple. So that's just right away, just a really interesting extra bit of information there. One thing they provide, which is really interesting, although they don't provide keyword insights like Google does, they do provide at a high level how many of the queries that they got were brand related and how many were category or product service related. And then there's this little bit of other, which is probably like competitors or other things that just kind of pop in there. They really don't give a lot of answers on that one, at least that I've found. So this is another really great thing to understand. I know within Google, they don't tell you this explicitly. You have to look at the keywords. You have to do a little bit of sorting. So it's really nice at a high level to see that. And they also provide a lot of action breakdowns. So beyond website, direction clicks, calls, you can also share on Apple. There's showcases, which we've talked a lot about. Not a lot of customers using this still. And then other can encompass a lot of different things. It could be looking at reviews. It could be looking at photos. It could be, there's app links. There's lots of different things you could click on there, but Apple keeps track of all those interactions that customers are taking on your site. So I wanted to take some of this data and run it against Google to see where customers are engaging the most. So for the purposes of this case study, I wanted to determine that split. And I used 24 QSR and beverage brands. The reason I stuck with QSR and beverage brands, other than gas station, convenience store, car washes, and things like that I mentioned, are honestly, we don't have enough customers that have been fully delegated yet. We'd like to see a lot more, especially in these kinds of industries where you're probably getting a lot of traffic from these sources. So as we get more delegations, we'll show some more of this. But right now, we have a lot of restaurants and QSRs, beverage brands that are doing this. It makes sense, right, to have this data. So what have we found? Well, first and foremost, average impressions on Google are 8 times that of Apple Maps. So this is what we're seeing from a numbers perspective. Searchers on Apple Maps were 8 times more likely to take action. Now, there are a number of reasons for that, right? Number one, Google doesn't provide the action specifically on Google Maps. So Google Maps would likely have a lot more intent, right, than general Google search. So we're not able to look at that. So we really do have to look at it in the aggregate, right? And we can tell that more action is being taken on Apple Maps in a map, because we see the Google action rate for QSRs and beverage, which is actually very high, right? Means people are active. A lot of our customers that are in service and other things, it's down in like 2, 3, 4%, which I understand. This is a lot more active, so it's a lot higher. In Apple Maps, though, it's nearly 50%. People are taking a lot of action. I've seen action, and that range, it was kind of wild. Some of it was in the 20, went down, I think actually as low as around 40 and up as high as 60. And again, it makes sense because people are active, they're on the go. If we got Apple Maps specific, actions, it might be different, but this is what we're seeing. But I think the reason to highlight this, though, is to show just how much action is coming from that. It is split. It is coming from two different places. And also, oh, here's the other one, branded impressions. I wanted to look at this as well. And I mentioned that Google or Apple will tell us how much branded traffic is. The average branded impressions are about 78%, which seems a little lower, actually, than some of what we're seeing in Apple. Not Apple, Google. Sorry, I'm going back and forth. On Google, we tend to see branded impressions usually in the 90s for most brands. So to see it a lot lower, we're seeing a lot more discovery happening here in Apple Maps, people on the go looking for something. When we break down those actions, what we see is direction requests, no surprise, make up nearly half of all actions taken on Google Maps and often surpass direction request volumes on Google. Again, there was about a 40-60% swing on this that we were seeing, where a lot of times Apple was outpacing the other. What we saw, web clicks, phone calls, a lot lower. That makes sense. People tend to do a lot more just discovery and research on Google. Phone calls, if you're looking to make a phone call, you're probably not going into the app. You're just looking up that business and making a phone call. So that part didn't surprise me. Actually, I don't think any of this really surprised me, but it was really nice to see that the data was backing this up. And one of the really just kind of anecdotally funny things was, as I was taking this data and putting it into a spreadsheet, there were a few times where I had to make sure that these charts were updating because they were so similar from customer to customer. I literally had to go back, like, is this formula right? Is it updating? Because it'd be 48.8 and then it'd be 49.1. Like, it was really, really close.
We got a question, Mike, about, do you have any research insight for service companies, not retail location type businesses? I wanted to call this out only because Mike and I were talking about this earlier. It is really important to get more brands delegated. We unfortunately don't have access to a lot of these insights. We tried to analyze for a lot of different industries, and it's really, really important that as a brand, you guys are delegating to your provider, which hopefully is SOCi, in which case we would be able to capture this data. But unless we are delegated, we are unable to capture this data for your account. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, at least not from an average industry average. So if you are delegated, we do have a tool. You talk to the CSM, we created it so that our CSM and everybody can have access to this. We can put your Apple data and your Google data in together, and you'll get charts like this that'll give you an understanding of what your split is. So right now, just wanted to give an average of what we're seeing, but if you want to know your split, we do have this ability to help you out with that. So yes, as we get more delegations, we will probably be covering some more of these in some way.
Absolutely.
So lastly, just to kind of wrap things up, reasons to set up delegation beyond what we just saw. So obviously reporting, huge piece of this, right? Understanding how you're performing, understanding where your traffic is coming from. Better visibility. Per the Apple team, when we first talked to them about this nearly 2 years ago, when they were starting to set this up, is that delegated listings are considered more authoritative and get preference in search. Part of that is they're getting their information from the customer from a source that's considered trusted and delegated. So why would they get information from other sources? I wish Google would do the same. I've kind of hinted that Apple's doing this. I'd love to FOMO them and get them to finally do something about it. But we'll see what happens. Better engagement. So things like Apple Showcases allow businesses to publish content. So if you're getting half of your traffic from Apple, why wouldn't you have a showcase like this? So if someone lands on you, they know right away they can get a deal, right? Give them a reason to come to you over someone else, especially when they're in discovery. And then lastly, what I said, fewer errors. Once delegated, the data sent by your listings management provider becomes the single source of truth. So I will say Apple still has issues getting updated right away. We still have to poke them sometimes, but it is still worlds better than the spreadsheets and the month it took sometimes back in the past in doing this. So yeah, anything, Casey, you'd like to add here at the end?
No, well said.
Oh, All right. Well, thank you all for listening to that. And next up, Spark of Genius. I love this power of hyper local content. So Kelly, tell us what you found.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So I teased this a little bit last month, but basically, when we're looking at social, organic social, the $1 million question is always: is the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to local social posting? So here at SOCi, we're always going to say yes. We always recommend hyperlocal posting, but we want, and yes, no pun, I guess, yeah, pun intended. But we wanted to make sure we had some up to date data to actually back us up on this. So our team of analysts looked at 2 million pieces of content across 10 different brands over the last year and a half. And from that data, we saw some really remarkable results. So by comparing the performance of group posts in SOCi against individual location posts, the study provides clear evidence that the localized content strategies drive stronger social performance across industries and platforms. So again, we analyzed 2 million posts. We saw 177% higher engagement rate on Facebook and a 98% higher engagement rate on Instagram when locations posted directly. So the screenshot's a little bit small there as far as the visual goes, but what we were looking at are posts that were more generic in nature. They went out to multiple locations, so they weren't hyper local compared to specific location type posts that were only applicable to the one location who saw it. And again, we saw very, very large difference in the performance here. So if you want to go to the next slide, Mike. So the overall Facebook engagement rate at that location level was 7.71%, which is nearly 3 times higher than the group levels, which was 2.78%. And if you're in social and you look at engagement rate as a KPI, you'll know 7.71% is really high. And then on the Instagram side, at the location level, we saw 6.45% as far as the engagement rate goes. And that is doubled the group level average at 3.25%. So again, showing the strength of localized content strategies. And another thing I wanted to note that I think is really cool is that the posting volume was significantly lower for the location posts. Wow. So on the Facebook side, we saw an increase in both reach and engagements at the location level, even though there's a 58% drop in posting volume. So significantly less posts still brought in an extremely higher amount of reach and engagement, and therefore engagement rate too. So with all that being said, the answer, and pun intended, is that yes, the juice is worth the squeeze. Posting smarter will give you a bigger impact. So the effort from the corporate team perspective really comes into play when it comes to equipping locations to create content, and also making that shift of quality over quantity post. So we always say you want to be posting consistently, but like we just saw, the locations even perform better with a lot less posts. So it really comes down to quality over quantity. And SOCi actually has a bunch of really great tools to help with this, as far as like templates go, dynamic text, AI features, guardrails, etc. So if you are a customer, definitely talk to your CSM about this. If you are not, something to keep in mind. But yeah, this has been something that we've been trying to prove for a while. So we wanted to get some up-to-date data to do so. So we're really excited about that.
I think, and Mike and I will get to some interesting little tidbits that we learned recently as well, but I think this is a greater indication of the general shift of just search industry in general, whether you were talking about social, LLMs, or SEO. I know we've said this before, and sorry I keep coughing it. 'Tis the season, kids back in school, and but it's this general shift of the consumer kind of demanding that uniqueness, demanding that context, demanding that kind of personalized one-on-one experience. Whether they're doing that on social media, or they're doing it in AI, or they're doing it in traditional search, that is more and more the direction of what customers are expecting. It's not good enough to have that just one general overarching message anymore. All of these different industries and these different mediums are demanding that localization and that personalization. So it is really, really time for brands to start, if you aren't already, considering that in your strategies across the board, especially in social. And Mike and I actually have some unofficial kind of update and got an inkling from some of our friends at Google around kind of the future of Google Posts and what their expectations are as well. And it is going to continue to grow in importance. And, Google is kind of pushing for folks to really personalize and have timely posts that are super relevant to the individual location, something that specific location at that specific point in time can really favor in search. And Mike, I don't know if you have any kind of anecdotal ads there as well.
Yeah, and I think the words they used were hyper local and hyper timely. Are a big focus for them on posts, and this idea that kind of the sense that I got, and again, not saying this is what's going on, but the sense that I got from the team is that in the future where you're searching for something local, let's say you're searching for, a car wash near me, just something general like that. Google's AI may give you a bunch of posts that car washes offering deals and what they're doing, and that's what you see. And based on what you like on that post, you click on that and then get a knowledge panel. So it may be more informational based to start with. What's timely, what's hyper local, and then link out to that business to get more information. So it's something I will say. Google, yes, there's analytics. Not yet. It's coming. Google keeps saying it's coming. When we talked to them, it was about a year and a half ago, the first time about posts, actually almost 2 full years ago. It's like
I was going to say, Mike, I don't know if you want to restate the question. I think that was just sent to the hosts and panelists. So,
sorry.
Yes,
Someone asked.
Go ahead.
Yeah, someone asked, does SOCi offer analytics on Google Posts? It used to be available natively, but the function was removed. Yeah, Google removed it because the functionality was terrible. The API and native numbers were not matching up. They discontinued it completely. It made a lot of people assume that it's going away. Actually, you'll still see a lot of news out there, even from respected SEOs going, oh, I think it's going away. But we talk to Google every other week. All they talk about is posts. We know it's expanding. We've told them since day one when they started talking to us about this that our customers want analytics. They need to know how those posts are performing. Right now by the end of the year, maybe. They are still promising they're coming. And we've also let them know that if they want our customers to be posting more, like we're giving you all anecdotal things that we're passing along, but we also need them to provide us some more concrete stuff that we can share with you. So just know that we are working with them to get some more concrete stuff, but at the same time, this is a priority for them, posts. And so these aren't going away, and they are going to become an important part of search in the future as far as we're kind of getting from them.
And this is a great question to kind of bring us all home. Define hyperlocal content, please. If the local office posts through SOCi, is it considered a local post? So, Kelly, I don't know if you want to take this one. The only thing I will say is, yes, it's about the kind of uniqueness of the customer. They can absolutely post through SOCi and being able to do that relative to their store. I think one of the ways we define it is not of like a general branded, but Kelly, I don't know if you want to highlight a little bit further and even like some examples or things that you've seen.
Yeah, so we understand that it's hard to get individual pieces of content from a specific location. That would be very best case scenario if you have individual pieces of content for each individual location that is only relevant to that location. That way people in the community see it, they know that's their local checkout girl or whatever it might be. But in SOCi, even if you can't get individual pieces of content, we do have factors like dynamic text where you send out one piece of content that's more generic and relevant to everybody, but you can at least say like the city name or the store name in the text. So there are a lot of features that can make something local, like in the messaging, even if the actual piece of creative isn't what we would call hyper local. But when we do use the word local, what we mean is specific to that location, whether that be with the actual piece of content or with the messaging. So the study that we just talked about, we looked at location specific post versus that more like group or generic post.
And I think a lot of, just to give like some examples that I see, like a lot of the posts will sometimes be things like, employee of the week or employee of the month or something. Or I think Human Being does one where it's like customer of the month and there's like a customer highlight. Or if there's, local fundraisers or local things happening in the community that the location is going to be a part of. I think of brands like, I think like Home Depot does like a once a month, like kids can come in and they do like an activity with them. Like posting photos of that would be an excellent thing at that hyper local level and showing the different things that the stores are doing in the community. That's what really kind of brings up a lot of that, positive content.
All right. Um, Real quick checkbox optimization. A couple new Google business categories this month. Education has bilingual preschool has been added. In food and beverage, Donburi restaurant, I think that's how you say it, has been added. And for those who don't know what that is, like myself, Donburi is a Japanese rice bowl dish. Actually, it looks really great, and I want to try it now. So, lastly, insurance agent. This I think is a big one for those I know we have a lot of financial services type customers. For those who have individual agent listings, Google in the past hasn't had these, so they've had to use insurance agency, which has never been quite right. I would highly recommend for those who have those individual agent listings to make this change. I know most of them, the listings actually already say agent. It's very similar to a category that Google added last year for money manager, or I think it was, I don't know if it was money managers, but it was something similar where
Wealth manager, I think, something like that. Yeah.
something like that, where people, there was a name, everybody called themselves one thing and Google didn't have that. It's here now. So essentially I would say if you're in insurance, if you're in the insurance industry and you have agent listings, talk to your CSM. Let's make that update for you. It was added, I think, a week and a half ago. So it's very new. No one else is using it. So it will give you an advantage for a time until everyone catches up for insurance agent searches. So,
100%.
cool. So lastly, Casey,
Yeah, to wrap it all up, we might as well just call this Casey's soapbox. Though I know it's Mike's soapbox too. This is something that I think we're both pretty passionate about. If you are on LinkedIn at all and you follow literally anyone at all that talks about SEO, you see a lot of noise. A lot of people talking about like SEO is dead or GEO is the future, or here are these 10 quick tips to rank on ChatGPT, and don't use SEO. Like it's so much noise. And what I've loved is seeing the professionals that we trust in the industry, folks like Lily Ray, Darren Shaw, really just dispelling this nonsense, and really just kind of calling people out on, how is GEO all that much different from SEO? And how can you say that SEO is dead when these LLMs are very clearly using Google and typical search optimization tactics to show up in their results. And with all of that, Mike, if you want to jump to the next slide, I would just say I loved this post and I think it sums it up really well. And I think one of the most important things to consider is you're hearing all of this noise, whether it be from other tech companies in the space or other professionals in the space. Be wary of those that are trying to sell you on this panic moment that a lot of people are having. And I think one of my favorite ones here is SEO is on fire, and when an industry is burning, snake oil sales spike. And it could not be more true. There's so much noise. There's so many people out there trying to explain to you that what you're doing isn't working and that you need to change everything. And that is just not true. Everything that we are seeing and that a lot of other professionals in the industry are seeing is that the good SEO tactics, the things that people have been doing who are good at SEO, the things that they've been doing for years already are the same methodologies that apply to AI-based search. There's maybe some subtle influences and inflections of things that matter more now. Like we're seeing a lot of people talk about schema markup a lot more now than they have in years. And that's great, but it's not like that's a net new strategy, right? Like these are all things that we've been telling you for a long time. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you are deploying your marketing tactics to be the best answer for the questions that you want to appear for, maybe it's not about, targeting a specific keyword anymore, it's targeting a specific topic, fine. The tactic to get there is still what it's always been. Be the best answer. Get your customers answers in a way that is simple, that is defined, that allows them to land on you fast, that makes you the most relevant, the most prominent result, whether it's about showing up in Google or showing up in ChatGPT or showing up anywhere else. Just think about the human that you are delivering to and target your content and your structure around that. And don't worry about these tips and tricks and this nonsense about things that you need to publish or things that you need to do that need to be crawled. Otherwise, you're not going to show up in these LLMs. It is just not true. So Mike, I don't know if you have anything to add, but
I could not have said it better myself. You did an amazing job. It's about human, it's about being the best answer. It's, everyone's always trying to sell the quick get rich scheme when it comes to SEO. Not the get rich, but it's like the same thing. What is that the thing that nobody knows about, and we're going to tell you it's secret, and it's not there. It is the same, like you said, and it is about the human interaction, like showing that you are that best answer. And so, yeah, I'm restating very poorly what you stated very well.
no, you're totally fine. And the last thing I'll end it on too is something else that's talked about in here is it says AI rank trackers are BS. Now, I don't know how fully I agree with that. I think that there are things that people are developing. SOCi is developing. It's not launched yet, and that's because we take our time with it. We want to do it right. We're not trying to snake oil salesman anything. But it is important that he is correct in saying the rank trackers are BS. Tracking keywords in AI results is not the same as tracking keywords in traditional Google search. If there's a tool out there that you're using that is trying to tell you that it knows what your rank is in AI search results, it probably doesn't. It is a little bit more about visibility now. It's a little more about contextual relevance around topical impressions and things like that. And so I would also be wary of that with people trying to sell you on these, kind of tools or features. Just pay attention to the people that take their time, that are trying to remain calm and work with you on what has always worked and help you measure success, as we're all learning more as an industry. So.
Yeah, because honestly, if everything was going to AI and all that's Google was dying, we wouldn't see customers continuing to do better in search, like in the middle of all this, right? Like search metrics are still going up. We're still seeing more actions happening for those that are doing things right. And so you kind of have to look at that as, is that the same across everything? Like you can't check everywhere, but if you're doing really well on Google, chances are you're doing really well elsewhere, especially now that we know that they're getting a lot of data from Google, right? But
Absolutely.
I guess that's what I'm do.
Yep.
So with that, thank you all.
Thank you all for joining us. I don't know if we have a slide we do have a slide on Reimagine. Okay, good. If you are joining us at Reimagine, we cannot wait to see you. If we have not met you yet, please come up and introduce yourself because myself, Mike, and Kelly will all be there. We all have different topics that we'll be covering and are super, super excited to connect with you all. So if you're not coming yet, please, please, please join us. Can't wait to see y'all.